to be kind of system-centric. Let me buy an ERP system, let me buy a CRM package, let me buy some application, and that application would create data, but it was very application-centric. This new world has to be very user-centric and very open as an open ecosystem with access to that data, and access to that data where the data lie, whether it be on premises or in the cloud or in multiple cloud instances. And so the phenomenon that I see is almost like a complete reversal of the process that many of us, and I was introduced so eloquently by Paige as the curmudgeon, having been around a couple of generations of data processing, right? This is opposite the way it used to be. It used to be go find the data, pull it into a central place, figure out what you've got, apply a schema, build some applications, and roll those applications out. We don't have time for that anymore. The data is changing too dramatically, too quickly. The data may not live on premise. It may only live in the cloud. It may never actually get moved, and there's too much of it to actually physically move. So you got to play it where it lies. You got to be able to move analytics to the data, move decisions to the time of interaction with customer. And that, again, depends on access to all of the data. And data is really the new raw material. Some people, and it's interesting to talk about new currency like Bitcoin and those kinds of things. I actually believe data is really the new currency of business. It is the raw material that we're all going to leverage to be successful. And access to the data is extremely important. Easy onboarding of data, getting data into the systems that you need for processing at the right time, making it easy, making it dependable is really important. Equally as important is access to data from these legacy systems that have been built up over the last 40, 50 years. These systems, we call them legacy systems, traditional data, structured data. That's not intended to sound defunct or in any way condescending, right? But because that data is really important, is that data is being used to run businesses around the world, to run commerce, to run customer interactions, to standardize, to be Sarbanes-Oxley compliant. All of those things that we kind of take for granted, this data is a really important piece of the puzzle, and being able to onboard that into these connected data platforms is extremely important, because that gives us the ability to provide context, not only of the new data, the streaming data, but also that operational stuff that's out there. And so when we looked around and we spoke with some customers about their journey on connected data platforms, and they agreed that access to all the data is really important. And this really spawned the relationship that we announced in Dublin, a couple of weeks ago, maybe a few months now. Time flies when you're having fun. The relationship with SyncSort and our ability to integrate, do some joint engineering, work well together, and also present ourselves to customers, kind of an easy button for onboarding that data. And so we're really thrilled to have announced that partnership, because it extends the reach of connected data platforms, makes time to value much more consumable, makes solutions very dependable and product-based, not custom code-based. And so we're seeing a lot of interest, keen interest, obviously, as evidenced by all of you being here today. So connected data platform is important. Access to all the data, really important. Making it easy and seamless, extremely important. And I am really thrilled that we have the world's expert on making these things easy with us, and she's going to spend the rest of our time together explaining how all these things work and the benefit that you can see from it.
Thank you, Scott.
Clicker?
Yes. You have seen our pictures before the partnership. Scott lost weight, I became blonde. So it didn't happen in a day, but we are very committed to this partnership. And we value PhotonWorks partnership because of many reasons. They have been a true open source vendor for Hadoop, and Scott's expertise in data warehouse and is another great validation for us. I'm going to talk briefly about how SyncSort helps with making this raw data, raw material for advanced analytics ready, and how it helps accessing all of this data from the enterprise. I want to also congratulate Hortonworks for their 50-year, 10 years of Hadoop, 5 years of Hortonworks, 5 times 10, 50 years of SyncSort. when we talk about data, you notice in this event 3 days of great sessions about predictive analytics, operational intelligence, machine learning, AI, all this cool stuff that we can do with data, we want to do with the data and be ready for the next generation business, digitized business, digital economy. And all of that relies on data being accessible, data being available. And this is really a very complex and more challenging task than most of the organizations think about. When organizations do pilot projects and proof of concepts and do a couple of Scala code to access some cool data source, everything goes fine. When they are ready to deploy a real production workload, then the complexity and the challenges start. Because if you are streaming data from credit card transactions, for example, for fraud analysis, this morning keynote speakers gave that example, you have to still reference the most critical data asset for your company. In all of the financial services and in banking, that critical data asset, customer reference data or historical reference data, still resides on mainframes, for example. So you have this very emerging technology stack that you have to keep up learning what's happening with Hive, what's happening with Scala. Is Spark going to oversee the MapReduce? Am I going to be obsolete in 6 months with my production MapReduce jobs? Which compute framework should I invest? And who should I hire? Scala programmers or Java programmers or Pig programmers? And then you have these legacy data sources that you have to go back and understand the schemas from Teradata, Netezza, Oracle, DB2 on mainframe or vSAN files and make sense of the data, map metadata to these new big data repositories. This is the challenge that SyncSort really addresses. We have a data integration product, DMXH, and DMXH basically enables access to all data. And when we talk about all data, it is on the mainframe, it is on the relational data sources, it is NoSQL data, and streaming data from Kafka. So it is really all data. It's a broad spectrum. We help organizations access this. We help organizations integrate this using our engine running in Hadoop. And when we talk about integrating, another example during the keynote was collecting driver information or collecting information about where the car is going, how the accident rates are in a particular area, how that data can be enriched with the historical reference data during the keynote. That enrichment is happening through the integration we provide because we can access and do some of the enrichment in flight or at rest, depending on the use case. And the third piece that's important here is really compliance, because as you can imagine, for a company that has been in the software business quite some time now and still in the New York Startup Program, all of our enterprise customers are really concerned about governing their data. Governing and having lineage, audit trails are very critical. Compliance is so critical that we even implemented features that gives customers archiving, storing data in some legacy formats in the Hadoop compute framework itself. And we simplify all this access, integrate, and compliance through a graphical user interface so the users can develop basically the same data pipeline without being aware of whether they will be doing a test run on their laptop or they will be doing a development run on the Hadoop cluster on premise, or they will have a production development running on the cloud. That's the value proposition we bring. In terms of why SyncSort, people ask how you differentiate from the other data integration vendors. One of the critical pieces is Hortonworks has been a great partner for us, And actually, I was very happy that we have been partnered for 5 years. Since 2011, we have been contributing to open source projects, work with Arun Murthy and several other Hortonworks committers, and made sure that we are part of the open source ecosystem while we provide software that has additional value on top of it. That native integration, our engine running inside the Hadoop data flow, is a big differentiator, because some of the interoperability with the ecosystem really comes out of that. When Ambari was launched, we were just another service running in Ambari and deployed and managed through Ambari. When Ranger security was generally available by Hortonworks, out of the box we were certified. Because we are integrated to the data flow, all of these integrations happen organically for our product. And the biggest value we spoke about, this data in motion, data at rest, data movement, and importance of access becomes bigger and bigger and bigger every day with the additional data sources from mobile sensors and all of the legacy data in the enterprise. So that's a big differentiator for us, because we have expertise over the years that we have developed for connectivity to all data sources, and we know big data. We are good with big data. We are integrated into the architecture. We are the best with the mainframe, so we combine, we bridge that gap between the big iron and big data. And future proofing is a big thing, because in 2015, we saw that many of the organizations really started the concept of data lake. And they were really trying to get all the data accessible for the analytics, whether this is business analytics or operational analytics. And during that time, some of our customers started asking us, how am I going to cope up with the ecosystem? An upgrade in my environment really is a huge cost. And I just stabilized my MapReduce production environment. People are already talking about Spark, and there are some people talking about Flink and Storm. Which one am I going to make the choice? Which one do you think is going to be the winner? So we thought this creates an opportunity for us, because that's the challenge that you do not want the organizations really to it's going to prevent the innovation in the organization. If you are recompiling all the jobs from one version of the compute framework to the other and trying to make that choice. So we have the dynamic optimization in our engine that we actually run exactly the same application on multiple compute frameworks. So when MapReduce 1 became Yarn, our customers did not need to compile a single line of code. The same application continued to run in their environment with Yarn. And we are also guaranteeing the same thing with Spark, and moving forward if any other compute framework becomes critical. And we do that for Spark because Spark has this promise of being the single compute framework for multiple types of workloads. And having that same data pipeline for both streaming and batch workloads is another critical one, because you don't have to really think about adapting different tools for different types of data sources. And the last one is, again, very complementing actually today's announcement, having that same application run on-premise or in the client, in the cloud, or accommodating hybrid applications. Our product is available on Amazon Web Services, Azure, Google Cloud, and also Dockerized. So I spoke about these pillars of our strategy: open source contribution, leveraging our heritage on mainframe, and our expertise with self-tuning engine, and light footprint, strong partnerships with the ecosystem. And this is our reference architecture with connected data platform, where you see SyncSort is really positioned to access all data and also integrate that data within the cluster. And making that data ready even for loading Hive or C files, or load to Tableau for visualization, or HP Vertica for analytics. So this was the end of my selling the product part. So I will get to the use cases. We really selected 3 use cases from 3 different verticals, and also 3 use cases where we show our joint partnership is not something one-time announcement. These use cases show from operational efficiency to transformative applications, where people are using us for accessing mainframe data, where people are using us for augmenting their existing data warehouse architecture to more transformative applications. So the first one is an insurance company, and just that statistic, 10 out of top 10 insurance companies in the world all have mainframes. So it's a very important part of their existing data architecture. So this company was actually trying to do something quite transformative, and transformative in terms of what they can offer to their customers, and what they can have in terms of their insurance policies, collecting data in real time, and offering customized insurance premiums and customized programs. And the challenge they had is, while they were acquiring these new data through their website, through their online applications, and even streamed through the cars, they had to access the reference data on mainframe stored in DB2, and also on Oracle and SQL. So they had an initiative. They had to create a data lake and really bring this data, make it available for the new applications. And it was very challenging because the big data teams did not understand these legacy data sources, and they had no idea of how to interpret the metadata from these data sources. So what they used the MXH with Hortonworks data platform, and they were able to really close to 1,000 tables from these databases with the single click of a button, loaded to HTTP Hive tables, automatically populating the metadata and data in the data lake, and keeping data in sync between those data sources and the Hadoop cluster was also a critical requirement for them, because they wanted to make this available as the data gets updated in the source. And the data was vSAM files, DB2, Oracle SQL Server. Benefits to the businesses were really time to value, faster analytics, being able to access this data. That was the biggest benefit. They did not have to do lines and lines of coding and try to maintain that, whether it's SQL code or whether it's Java code. And productivity increase was another benefit, because they were able to really leverage the data warehouse engineers and ETL engineers they had in-house. Compliance was a big requirement. Having audit trails and also ability to access the data securely was a big requirement because of this nature of these data sources. The second customer is a leading media company, and their challenge was really building a scalable data platform to support new business initiatives. In their case, they were targeting a very aggressive double-digit data growth, and they didn't have the scalable architecture, scalable at cost. Their data warehouse was Netezza, and when they really try to kind of see how they will build the next generation data warehouse architecture, they decided to go with Hortonworks data platform. And with SyncSort DMXH, they migrated over 500 SQL ELT workloads to DMXH on Hortonworks data platform. And the benefits here are, again, business agility. In this particular case, they told me that it was taking 6 months to add an additional data source. So it was very important for them to be able to do that under 2 weeks to add new data sources and go into production. The other benefit was really reducing the costs. They saved millions of dollars in terms of both their maintenance of applications, because they were able to standardize the applications through a tool, and more importantly, by reducing the cost on the data warehouse, enterprise data warehouse. And the third one is, again, productivity, because they were not doing coding, and they were really automating this through a tool. And the last use case is a hotel chain. And the business challenge for this hotel chain was really being able to timely collect the data for the bookings, for the reservations, what's available, inventory of the rooms. And though this may sound like, oh, what's the big deal? When I go and make a reservation in booking.com, there are only 5-6 fields. They had over 4,000 properties globally that they have to collect and timely report on. And their reporting was taking over 24 hours, which wasn't acceptable. So their business challenge was to integrate these over 4,000 properties from global sites and being able to have near real-time reporting on them and making decisions based on the customer preferences, particular regions that one might be interested to go, and offer better options to their customers. So the solution was Hortonworks data platform, DMXH. DMXH really consuming these properties from a Kafka database every 10 seconds, processing them on Hadoop, and loading the Teradata for analytics. And this was actually deployed on Google Cloud Platform. Biggest benefit was time to value, because they were able to cut the development time and report on this under half an hour, every half an hour. Productivity was a big benefit because of leveraging existing skill sets without understanding all the itsy-bitsy deep understanding of some of the technology stack. Future-proofing was a big benefit too, because this customer also had workloads that will benefit from Spark, and they are planning to adopt Spark. So knowing that these applications will run as is in Spark was a huge requirement for them. And the visual description of this data flow, in addition to the logs we provide for audit trails, becomes really important, both for compliance, also understanding the data pipeline, and up-to-date data, better business decisions, happier customers. So just to summarize the benefits: faster time to value, compliance, increased productivity, and overall cost. Those are really the benefits our joint solution provides. And we have a joint demo at 7 p.m. At booth 13.3. And you can get your Captain Data t-shirt. Join us for the demo. And also, please, you are welcome to visit us and ask any questions you may have. Thank you. Should we take questions?
what's the typical time it takes to set up a feed, once you have the DMX product up and running?
What's the typical time to have a
Like
deployment?
to establish a new data connection.
A new data source is under 2 weeks, and this hotel chain customer actually in 2 months time frame they had their first application in production.
Okay, thank you.
There's someone in the back. Oh, okay.
How do you make sure the data sync between the source and the platform?
So we basically capture the change and apply to the target. Depending on the use case, actually, for example, if the data source is on the mainframe, people do not want you to capture the change on the mainframe because it's very expensive. It's like the processing time is so expensive. So in that case, they would rather have a full snapshot of data on the Hadoop and calculate the change on Hadoop itself. So most of these cases, it benefits from there. But we also partner for capturing the change on the source and applying it.
So are you capturing the log information or are you capturing the last update?
So there are 3 ways you can capture change. One, you do a dump and compare the snapshot of the data, which might be sometimes more beneficial if it's very expensive to do the change. 2, it can be a trigger-based change data capture from the source, which is usually not preferred because it does really create load. And the 3 is log-based, and with that we partner with companies like Stream, for example.
You mentioned about deploying the applications implemented for different platforms, like for example for Hadoop.
Can we, I'm having difficulty to hear you actually.
So you mentioned that you deployed applications written for different platforms, like for Hadoop into Spark without even recompiling the code
Yes.
or doing any changes.
Yes.
Can you explain us the secret?
Yes, of
how,
course.
How you do that?
I'm glad you asked that question because it's a very important value proposition. So some of the vendors also claim democratizing data. You will hear that message. And how they do usually is they will provide a user interface and generate some code. Generate code for Hive, for example, or generate code for Pig. Whereas in our case, because we have been working with partners like Hortonworks and contributing to the open source, our engine is running already in the Hadoop data flow. And likewise with Spark, leveraging the APIs that Spark provides. What that means, everything you are actually defining in the graphical user interface or through our human-readable scripting, either way, has a one-to-one correspondence to what's running in our engine. We are not generating Java code, we are not generating Hive, we are not generating Scala. We are actually taking that application and running in our engine, which takes advantage of the orchestration of the Hadoop, orchestration of the Spark. So in that case, all of the heavy lifting happens in the engine itself. So depending on whether you are running this on your Windows laptop, which you might be actually doing for testing purposes, or you might be working with a global SI that has actually just the access for testing. And in that case, the engine basically makes the decision how to run that in a standalone mode and parallelize across multiple cores. Whereas when you are submitting to run on Hadoop MapReduce, again, the engine makes the decision which jobs to run in Map, which jobs to run in Reduce, and how to parallelize that workload, likewise in Spark.
Yeah. In addition to Hadoop, do you also support products like MongoDB or
NoSQL databases?
Yes, we support them as the big data sources and data repositories. We can connect to them. They are just another data target or data source for us.
Oh, but now you don't ETL into them.
We do the data integration and load to them, for example. That's usually the use case that we have. One might be, for example, doing some enrichment of data and loading to HBase or MongoDB. That's mostly the use case that our customers are deploying.
Thank you.
We do not run our engine using the MongoDB.
Sure. Okay. Does the product support more than one target in the HTTP?
Yes, we support all of the Hadoop supported file formats and integrate with H catalog for metadata.
No, my question is, I have one source into Solar and Hive in parallel.
Yes, we can support, yes, definitely. Writing into, so actually that's a use case that people may want to do archiving of the data and also load into Hive for analytics reasons, yes. Any other questions? Okay. Again, I want to thank Scott for supporting us today, for joining us, and thank you for coming to this session.